Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the NeoSystems CMMC Town Hall. Now I'd like to introduce your host for today, Ed Bassett from NeoSystems. Ed?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our continuing series of Town Hall Ask Me Anything sessions. Today, I'm excited to have not one, but two guests from the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Accreditation Body Board of Directors. So we've got Karlton Johnson and Regan Edens. We're recording these sessions as part of our community outreach to the Defense Industrial Base. So I want to thank everyone for their attention. I want to encourage, if you have questions, today is essentially a question and answer session. I'll have a few questions, but please, if you're in the audience, send in some questions in the Q&A window, and we will be answering as many of those live on the air today as we have time to. We are also recording these sessions and making them available for people who want to watch them later on demand. First, I'll start with a quick introduction of my guests. Karlton Johnson. Karlton has a distinguished career as an Air Force officer, including CIO and cyberspace expert advisor postings. He's currently the CEO of Delane Security Group, and most relevant to our CMMC discussion, he's the vice chairman of the board of directors of the CMMC accreditation body. So welcome, Karlton. Also with me today is Regan Edens. He has a distinguished career as an Army officer and a DoD civilian in the intelligence community, now focused on transformation and innovation in the cybersecurity world. He's co-founder and chief of transformation and security and compliance at DTC Global, and also a member of the board of directors of the CMMC accreditation body. He chairs the standards committee and is co-chair of the training committee. So Karlton, Regan, welcome. Karlton, this is your first visit with us here on the NeoSystems Town Hall, so I just wanted to give you a quick opportunity to give us an overview of the work that you're doing with the CMMC accreditation body, and really specifically, maybe on a personal level, what attracted you to volunteer your time to help move this initiative forward.
Well, thank you very much for that, Ed. And first of all, I want to thank you guys for your ongoing and continuing support to this effort.
Thank you.
Moving forward to defend the defense industrial base is important for me for a number of reasons. And to answer your question specifically, I spent over 26 years in the defense of our country, a lot of that dealing in cyberspace. So I've had the dubious opportunity of seeing the adversary up close. I know that they are determined and agile, and therefore being able to be a part of something that will help protect our livelihood is something that's very important to me. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to defending the nation, when you don't have good cybersecurity, you have to lower your flag, you have to learn a different anthem, and you have to do things differently than you would normally want to do, and you lose your freedoms. And so the thing that's attracted me to this is being able to continue to defend our country, and from the Air Force perspective in airspace and cyberspace, and so I'm back in the fight. For what I do on the board, I am the chairman, or excuse me, a vice chairman of the board. And so my day-to-day role and responsibility is essentially to enable people like Regan Edens and the rest of our team who are building out the capabilities in terms of resourcing, make sure they have what they need to get the job done. Additionally, I work with Ty Schreiber, who's the chairman, with interfacing for work with our DoD customers on this. So when we're having DoD meetings, I'm part of those conversations as well. The number one role, the number two guy, is to make sure that any headaches that the boss has get addressed, make sure that the people are happy and they have what they need. And as a cohesive team, we're one team all in. And so that's what I'm doing.
Karlton, thanks. And Regan, thanks. I know you joined us about a month ago for one of these sessions, so some of the audience may have heard you speak at that time, but thanks for returning. Any new developments you want to open up with before I dive into some questions?
Well, yeah, we've done some really great things. So as I've mentioned before, being on the CMMC accreditation bodies and as part of the CMMC program, I think everyone can attest to, from the outside looking in and from the inside looking out, it's sort of like building a rocket ship in flight with multiple segments and then assembling it in air. And so part of that rocket ship that we've been building is in preparation for the provisional assessors training, which we as you were. Well, the provisional assessors training that's coming up here in August, and then having conducted the mock assessor training, which is really a great milestone. Ben, who is the training committee chairman, and Jeff, Dalton, who is leading accreditation, and the other assistant instructors. You've got Jim Goebbels and you've got Chris. They were amazing. Really got a chance to engage some of the mock assessors, go through some of the training content, do a field testing, if you will, field trial for the conformity assessment document that my industry working group has put together. And that was a great milestone. Great feedback all the way around, very important to us. And then and really setting the pace and the groundwork for the provisional training coming up. So kudos to Ben and to Jeff and to the instructors who sit on the board, who really did an amazing effort there to get ready and get that mock training up and running. So that was the big thing on the standards front, was us, my industry working group and I working together to finish or work towards completion of the conformity assessment document, which focuses on the criteria for a draft version of the criteria for certification, and then and in support to the training. So for us, it was a great milestone. We're very excited from the feedback that we got from the mock from the attendees on the mock training, and really looking forward to leaning forward and getting the provisional assessors trained and up and running.
Very good, thanks. So our previous session, right before we took a break for the July 4th holiday, but John Weiler was on and he joined us and he gave an overview of what at that time was a brand new publication on the website of paths and pricing for assessors, C3PAOs, provider organizations, and practitioners. So our audience here on these sessions is primarily organizations that are looking to get certified, organizations seeking certification. So their main interest is going to be on how those programs are going to help them to shop, to select partners with some confidence. So many of those will be looking for partners, service providers, consultants, assessors. Can you give a little overview of these new registration programs and the marketplace that you anticipate building as people sign up and get certified, and both companies and individuals under those new programs?
Sure.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Karlton. You drive on.
You win. Go for it. And this is one of the great things that it's in terms of being part of the AB. Any one of our guys can answer these questions. So I'm going to defer to my brother Regan. Regan, go for it.
Let's see where to start. So Jeff Dalton has been leading the effort with Mark Berman and Jim Goebbels. They're amazing individuals. Mark did the serious heavy lifting to do the infrastructure piece to get the registration all functional, and the website changes that we've done, and the website looks really great. And we've had significant feedback on the functionality and interaction between those seeking to register and to learn more about the process. And answering questions. I know I'm sure Karlton's inbox has been flooded with help desk tickets for us to be able to answer the specific questions associated with our different areas of interest across the board. So we're working on that. The other piece on the registered participants piece, you've got all sorts of different mechanisms and entry points for folks interested in participating in the ecosystem. Certified assessors, certified professionals, registered professionals, as different level of entrance in different degrees of participation, levels of training. And so to me, what they've done, what Jeff and Mark working together with Jim have done, is really developed a good stair step and different entry points for, okay, am I going to be a consultant, right? Am I going to be, I'm not going to necessarily be an assessor, but I really want to get folks up and running and getting them positioned to make it through the gate and make it to touchdown for once the assessor arrives. So that ecosystem of professionals, I think they've done a very good job in differentiating the level of knowledge between the registered ones and the certified ones, but all really developing an ecosystem based on a code of ethics. So that was the most important piece for us in managing the marketplace, is making sure that it was easy from a consumer's vantage point to see how look at different professionals that I wanted to engage, and see what their level of expertise is, both with regard to CMMC and in their historical expertise, and then also making sure that the things that they're telling me are really, I've got a skeleton, an ethical skeleton, so that, you know, we've had some troubles in the past of people, you know, advertising, you know, we'll get you CMC certified in 3 days and that sort of thing. So our ability to really manage that marketplace in an effective way, I think that Jeff has done a very good job of setting that up and making sure that a consumer can differentiate between those participants who are engaged in structured and ethical manner, and those who are sort of swimming outside of those swim lanes who really have no boundaries. Any thoughts from you, Karlton?
You know, the only thing I'll add to that is, you know, the big picture here is we have developed that ecosystem where, depending on who you are and what you want to do, there is a place for you to insert and play. If you want to just be, when I say just be, I'm not trying to belittle the position, but if you want to be a consultant who doesn't go through the various different certifications and you want to advise people, well, then we have a process by which you can do that. But if you want to go to the other end, where you want to become a certified third-party assessor organization, you want to have assessors come in who are trained, qualified, and certified and verified, then there's a place for you there. So we have, as Regan has pointed out, the team has put together an ecosystem that allows anybody in the marketplace who wants to contribute to this effort of protecting cybersecurity to be able to do so. And with taking the best practices that we've learned from the previous work of the previous NIST 800-171 and those capabilities, now we're able to, within an ecosystem, have a maturity level so that whether you're a small organization, two-person shop, or you're a large organization, we're able to give you capabilities and people to help you improve your maturity over time and space and become a viable player within that defense marketplace. So the big picture, as I see it, is the ecosystem itself allows many different components to play, and we're continuing to evolve that.
That's very good. Go ahead, Regan.
Add on something, if I could pile on just a little bit, is that what I think is really interesting is that what we've tried to do is we've tried to give companies, practitioners inside of companies a way to participate as well. From what Karlton has said, for example, let's say I'm a quality manager, or I'm a compliance professional that's traditionally focused on ITAR or some other compliance regime. Now, as a registered practitioner, I've got some participation in the ecosystem. I've got a basic foundational level of training, and I can differentiate myself inside of my own organization on where I sit in sort of that ecosystem. So I think that's good both from a third party from the outside looking inside of an organization seeking certification, but also those third parties or practitioners inside the organization looking outward. So I think that it's a great opportunity to really have a balanced perspective and balanced participation, both inside the organization that wants to be certified, and then outside the organization looking for people who can help and provide guidance for certification.
So very good. I think there's paths for individuals as well as for companies, as you mentioned. So just focusing on the individual paths, it looks to me like there's 2 entry points for people trying to join. The first step, and that would either be a certified professional or a registered practitioner. My understanding is that the registered practitioner involves some training, but not necessarily testing and certification. And the certified professional actually has to pass a test. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So the registered professional, when you get that authorization, you're authorized to represent the organization writ large as a person who is familiar, and that's the key word, familiar with the constructs that we have within the CMMC ecosystem. And you are then at that point, once you go through that process, you are able or enabled to deliver non-certified CMMC consulting services. That gets back to what Regan and I were talking about earlier in terms of not everybody's going to want to go through the extensive certification piece. So this allows you to be in that space, but you're limited what you can and cannot do. It's more advisory. On the other hand, when you look at the certified professional, you actually have to go through a certification process. Regan, do you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think that that's spot on. Ultimately, what we want is we want an ecosystem that's bound by knowledge, skills, and a genuine representation of knowledge, skills, and abilities, right?
Yeah.
So that one of the major barriers that we faced as a practitioner working in this space for the past almost 4 years, and specific to CMMC and DFARS, is that there's uncertainty. There's uncertainty about who, where do I look for to advice? How much advice, how much experience do they have, and what is their baseline of expertise and experience? Because as a company, I'm making major decisions here, major decisions on the future of that really set the path for the future of my company with regards to technology, impacts on culture, impacts on IT policies and practices down to the user level. So when I make those decisions, I really, one of the major weaknesses of DFAR 7012 is that there's no points of navigation for certainty for the company. So it's much easier to do nothing than it is and absorb that risk than it is to really put investments in places that you're not sure what the outcome would be. So giving the thought here was to give the ecosystem a safe harbor. So points of navigation. So I sailing my ship as a company can know where the or have a sense for where in the dark waters where the reefs are and where the rocks are, and be able to navigate my way using known beacons for guiding me, for giving me points of navigation in my choices. And so those choices have much clearer and better outcomes than just sort of should I just Google and find somebody on Google and pick the first one that comes up.
That's very important, because we get a lot of questions of, who can I trust, and how do I know if an answer is right? If my advisor has told me I need to do such and so, where can I go to verify that that's true? And I think CMMC adds a significant resource. So I definitely appreciate that as someone in the trenches, answering these questions or fielding these questions, sometimes asking these questions myself. So,
Yeah.
Can I add an additional piece to that?
sure thing.
Sure,
So if you're a consultant, for example, and you're familiar with CMMC, and let's just say that, for example, you may have been in the cyber risk space for a bit, you're just getting exposed to it, you want to learn more, you can start off by inserting yourself into the ecosystem as a consultant, as a registered professional. But then you may want to go through the next step of, hey, I think I want to become certified. And then you can move over into the next slot. So you can start with a certified professional, move over to a what we call a CA1 certified level 1 assessor. You have to go through, I believe, a number of assessments. I think it's 3 different assessments you have to go through in terms of experience points. And then you can move up to level 3 and then eventually level 5. So we're also providing a path for continuing education and strengthening skills within this ecosystem, which I think is another benefit of this. If you look at the previous models, they don't necessarily account for that. So you can grow within this space, starting from a basic level to a full-fledged certified and credentialed person.
So one of the things that it mentions on the website around the certified professional designation, obviously the path is primarily to go, as you mentioned, Karlton, up that progression and become a certified assessor. But the website also mentions that the CP designation, the certified professional designation, is quote unquote additionally required as an in-house employee assisting the organization with the build out of CMMC maturity level capability. So can you give some more details on that? I mean, is it required? If you're going to be an in-house employee assisting with CMMC, is it required or just beneficial? Because it implies a requirement, but I don't know where that comes from.
Regan, you want to take that one?
So let's see, the best way to really approach this is that Jeff Dalton has been working on the assessment methodology, right? And so where standards builds a bridge from providing clarity, consumability, and consistency with the CMC models practices, in how the assessor really looks at each of those individual standards and then applies the criteria for certification and interprets it, the evidence as they conduct the assessment. What we want to see is that the companies that are seeking certification are best positioned to really have knowledgeable and trained persons inside their organization, right? So that consistency is going to be very, very important. What we don't want to happen, one of the major challenges that we face as the AB is that we have a demand problem. The demand problem looks like this. We've got, let's say, the assessors have to start from someplace. So we get this initial crew of certified assessors, and their demand is, as you can imagine, is going to be, staggering. And we're going to continue to, sort of metaphorically proselytize the gospel and then get more and more assessors and get them into the ecosystem. What we don't want are those assessors as they're setting up really appointments and opportunities to conduct assessments. What we want to avoid is the assessor walking into an environment that the company believes that they are good to go, that they're solid, that they're ready to be assessed, and then within 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, it's very clear to the assessor, okay, this organization is not ready, and it's
Right.
simply a matter of communication, because either maybe the outside consultant that the organization used, or the inside person who quote unquote thought that they had the practices down. And you're pretty clear, an experienced an assessor like myself or others can walk in and really tell, okay, the organization is not ready. The challenge of that is that time is very, very valuable. It's valuable to the organization and it's valuable to the assessor. So what we don't want are companies out there burning capital, waiting on the assessor to arrive, and then the organization might not be ready. Or worse yet, they come in, the organization is not ready. Now they go back to the bottom of the list that they've been waiting on. And then now we've got this gap between, yep, they've got things fixed, but now they're waiting on a very lengthy waiting list for the assessor to circle back around. So
Right.
one of the techniques to be able to address that problem is to say to organizations out there, hey, look, we want you to have a certified a professional inside your organization with some an additional level training, so that this is an investment to the organization, and this is an investment not only to your people, but it is an investment inside the organization to ensure that problem doesn't, or try to mitigate the risk associated with those challenges, both from a constraint point of view, and then from supply and demand, and then also just time and circumstance for the organization seeking certification. Now, the policy hasn't been written. Required, I would probably put that in quotation marks, because as Jeff and the accreditation committee is working on the assessment, finishing up the assessment methodology over the next 30 days or so, that formal policy will come out. So, but what I would say to you is that as a organization seeking certification, if I were a compliance manager or a quality manager in an organization right now, I would pivot immediately to my boss and say, look, it says required, and we should take that literally, because it really is worth the investment to get me registered, to get me the requisite training, to make sure that we're ready on game day and we're ready for that touchdown.
And is that, I would assume that also would go for individuals, not just in-house, but individuals that work for clients. Maybe they work for a consulting firm or an MSP or an MSSP. Those folks should be looking for that as well. So is that certified professional, registered practitioner, or is there, maybe one of each? Or I guess, does it make sense for an individual to hold both, or is it a progression, as you mentioned earlier, Karlton?
So here's what I'd offer. This is why choice is important. It depends on your business model. It depends on what you are seeing as important in terms of your investment in cybersecurity. Now, if it were me, I would, because I recognize the challenge that having gaps in your cyber readiness from a business perspective does, I'd rather lean towards having people who are credentialed and certified because it gets me ahead of the game. However, starting out, I might not have that ability to invest that deeply. So again, this is all about giving people choices. And within your business model, you may find that initially you have invested a significant amount of money so that you may just want to go with a registered professional, and that'll get you by for the interim. You may be going for a significant contract, in which case you want to have extreme due diligence done. So you'd rather not take the chance of not having somebody who's credentialed in place to run it. So you want to go that route. So again, it all comes down to business need and managing that risk. Does that make sense?
It does. I appreciate it. We have just a few minutes left, so I want to pivot a little bit. Regan, you mentioned last month when you joined us, and then you just mentioned a second ago that assessment standard may be getting wrapped up in the next 30 days. So I know you're heavily involved with the production of that document. Your advice last time when you were here in June was be patient while we get it right. In other words, we'd rather not publish something fast that has a lot of flaws. We'd rather have it be done well. So we've all been not as patient as we probably should have been because everybody wants to see it. Any new developments? That 30 days, is there a specific time on when a public release? Is there a specific date in mind, or are we just kind of in the time frame of 30 plus days?
Well, it's a great question. So in the meantime, what we decided is we just select all and we deleted the entire document, and we're starting from scratch again. So no,
Nice.
My industry working group, they're really amazing. I mean, we're talking about 17, 18 volunteers, right? We did an estimate, and I wish we'd written it down, but we've got like 4,000 hours since March into this document. It's just an enormous amount of time. And I could not be more proud of their effort, because these are industry Jedi Knights who are truly, they take the mission to heart, and we spent a lot of weekends burning the midnight oil to get this done. So what the status is right now is that the Department of Defense, the PMO's office, is reviewing the document, and we're making some final decisions on how to best roll that out. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I will say that the feedback that we're going to get, that we have gotten from the mock trainers, and then from the provisional training assessors group, that we will incorporate that feedback and then get it out as soon as we can. So you can look at a July, August timeframe, but ultimately, DoD is our partner in this effort, and so we need some feedback from them in order to make those final decisions.
Excellent. I think that takes us to the end of our time. I'll have just a few seconds, maybe not even minutes, if either of you want to give kind of some wrap-ups, but I really appreciate it. This is some very good information, timely, hot off the presses. So really, I think our audience is glad to hear this. I hope everybody that's participating today finds it very useful, and we will make this available, as I mentioned, for on-demand listening, so we can reach a larger audience with this important information. Karlton, anything you want to say to wrap up today?
Yeah, just real quick. Once again, thanks for the opportunity to talk. We're keeping our website updated, so the latest and greatest we usually push out there, so more to come. And I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we have received numerous questions regarding reciprocity. Just want to let you know that we are definitely looking at that very closely with our DoD partners, and we will be rolling out more information as it becomes available. But everything that people are pushing to us, we hear everything, we capture that, and we put it into the job dart of work, and so we're moving forward very aggressively. We want to thank industry for their continued support on this, and we're looking forward to doing great things with you.
Thank you. Regan?
Karlton said it all. I mean, we are climbing that mountain, and mixed metaphors, and flying that rocket ship, and building it and assembling it, and we're going to get this done. It's an amazing effort. It'll probably be our grand opus here, and it's an honor and pleasure to serve, and we're just going to keep driving on.
Thank you both for your time. For the folks in the audience, thank you for your time and attention. And I hope this was very useful to everyone. We will be continuing this next Wednesday at the same time. So it's gonna be Wednesday, July 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll have another session of our Town Hall Ask Me Anything session. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth and Don.
Thank you, everybody.